What language do people actually speak in Kyrgyzstan? It's a question many travelers ask when planning a trip to this stunning and little-known country in Central Asia. The answer isn't as simple as you might think, because in Kyrgyzstan, two very different languages are spoken side by side, Kyrgyz and Russian. So why are there two official languages in one country? And which one should you learn a few words of before you go? Let's take a closer look at the surprising story behind Kyrgyzstan's language landscape and how it reflects the country's complex history, identity, and modern-day reality. Kyrgyzstan is a landlocked country in Central Asia, bordered by Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and China. It's home to just over 7 million people and has been an independent nation since 1991. But to understand the language situation, we need to rewind the clock much further. The Kyrgyz people are a Turkic ethnic group, and their language, Kyrgyz, is part of the Turkic language family. That means it's distantly related to languages like Turkish, Uzbek, and Kazakh. Kyrgyz has its own rich oral tradition, shaped by centuries of nomadic life in the mountains and valleys of Central Asia. Historically, Kyrgyz was a purely spoken language, passed down through storytelling and epic poems like the Manas, one of the longest epic poems in the world. But things began to change during the 20th century, especially under Soviet rule. From the 1920s onward, Kyrgyzstan became part of the Soviet Union, and Russian was imposed as the dominant language across the region. Russian became the language of government, education, business, and elite culture. Kyrgyz, like many minority languages, was suppressed and marginalized. Over time, many Kyrgyz people became bilingual, speaking Russian in public and Kyrgyz at home. Even today, that pattern still holds true in many parts of the country. When Kyrgyzstan gained independence in 1991, there was a strong movement to revive the Kyrgyz language as a symbol of national identity. Kyrgyz was declared the state language, and efforts were made to promote it in schools, media, and government. But at the same time, Russian remained deeply embedded in society. In fact, in 2000, Kyrgyzstan officially recognized Russian as a second official language. That decision was partly political, aimed at maintaining strong ties with Russia and ensuring the rights of Russian-speaking minorities, but it also reflected everyday reality. Today, both Kyrgyz and Russian are used in daily life, but how much you hear each one depends a lot on where you are. In rural areas and among ethnic Kyrgyz families, Kyrgyz is the dominant language. It's the language spoken in traditional homes, during festivals, and among nomadic communities in the mountains. But in cities like Bishkek, the capital, and in formal settings like universities, courts, and government offices, Russian is still widely used. In fact, many young urban Kyrgyz grow up speaking Russian more fluently than Kyrgyz. Some businesses and schools use both languages side by side. And in official government documents, both Kyrgyz and Russian are often printed together. Street signs, menus, and advertisements may be written in either or both. One interesting feature is the writing system. Both Kyrgyz and Russian use the Cyrillic alphabet, although Kyrgyz includes a few extra letters to represent sounds that don't exist in Russian. There have been discussions about switching Kyrgyz to the Latin alphabet, like Kazakhstan has begun to do, but so far, Cyrillic remains the standard. So, which language should you know as a visitor? If you're planning to travel to Kyrgyzstan, knowing some basic Russian will likely help you more in cities and tourist areas. It's still the most widely spoken second language across the region, and it's often used in signage and by people in the service industry. However, if you want to connect more deeply with local culture, especially in rural areas, learning a few phrases in Kyrgyz can go a long way. People appreciate when visitors make the effort, and it shows respect for the national identity of the Kyrgyz people. And of course, many younger people, especially in urban areas, may also speak some English, particularly those working in tourism. But English is far from widespread, so it's helpful to pick up at least one of the local languages. Kyrgyzstan's bilingual reality can be confusing at first glance, but it's also one of the things that makes the country so fascinating. Language here is not just a tool for communication, it's a reflection of history, politics, and identity. Kyrgyz remains the language of heritage and tradition, deeply tied to the land and its people. Russian, on the other hand, serves as a bridge, both between ethnic groups within Kyrgyzstan and between Kyrgyzstan and the wider post-Soviet world. For travelers, this mix of languages offers a unique cultural experience. You can find yourself learning about ancient nomadic traditions in Kyrgyz, then ordering coffee in fluent Russian, all in the same afternoon. And while language politics can be sensitive, there's also a sense of pride in Kyrgyzstan's diversity. This is a country where identity isn't based on speaking just one language, but on being able to navigate multiple worlds at once. So, what language do people speak in Kyrgyzstan? The short answer, both Kyrgyz and Russian. The long answer? It's a story of history, resilience, and cultural adaptation, one that continues to evolve with every new generation. If you're planning a visit, take the time to learn a few words in each language and be open to the diversity you'll encounter. And as always, remember to do your own research and check reliable travel sources before making plans, especially when it comes to communication and language expectations. Because in a place as complex and welcoming as Kyrgyzstan, understanding the language is about much more than words. It's about understanding the country itself. Thanks for watching. Which languages do people speak where you're from?